Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto trained by Ainz Ooal? Part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. And also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out in the channel. So let's start the video. In the great tomb of Nazarick, things were quiet for the most part in the main chambers of the one known as Ainz. He was sitting in his chair going through some paperwork that Sivas had just handed to him not too long ago. Ainz was an undead skeleton lord. He is known as a wizard-class warrior that was known to use some of the most powerful spells in the entire world with ease. He was even capable of becoming a warrior-class fighter when he used one of his spells known as Create Greater Object. This allowed him to bypass his problems in his wizard state and take a more weapon-based look. His outfit, as a skeleton wizard, was less bulky than it used to be compared to. He decided to shrink the size of his robes and make it out to be about where it just covers his basic body and doesn't have large shoulder pads. From there he had two glowing orbs on his shoulders where his pads ran over. His eyes were dark red and glowed with immense power, and next to him was the golden staff of the great Ainz Ooal, which was considered one of the strongest objects in the world. Ainz was busy these days doing stuff that didn't really interest him anymore. He had defeated the great slain theocracy, recruited powerful warriors to his side, and defeated all the major kingdoms, leading to him ruling the lands without an equal in sight. Sadly, after doing this, he grew tired of sitting around and doing nothing, while at the same time having no one to really fight him anymore. From his perspective, things were annoyingly simple, and he wanted something different to happen. Moreover, he wanted someone to fight or some new place to conquer and destroy. The doors to his office had a knock, and he looked up. "Come in." The doors opened, and entering the room was a black-haired man wearing a red and white suit and with pointy ears. He had a black tail behind him and glasses that covered his diamond eyes that were hidden underneath. "Demiurge, what can I do for you?" The man smiled while adjusting his gloves on his hands. "Well, I was wanting to warn you about the tomb started to shake from explosions coming from one of the main floors." "They are at it again, aren't they?" The man smiled and nodded his head. "Yes, from what I gathered they are fighting over who will be the main wife in your life, sir. But I'm curious about something, if you wouldn't mind." asked Demiurge. Ainz had an idea what this was about, but wanted to be sure. "Well, I was wondering, why haven't you tried for a child yet, my lord? This would help all of us by giving the girls something to keep them occupied and keep us from having to repair the tomb all the time." Ainz sighed. "If I could, Demiurge, I would, but the problem is that I do not have a penis." "So that means," Ainz nodded his head, "yes, I can't have children of my own." Demiurge pushed his glasses up. "I see, my lord, thank you for sharing that with me. It shows your trust in me, and I appreciate it." Ainz nodded his head and asked, "So who is it this time though?" "From what I saw, it was Albedo, Shaltier, and Zessie that were all fighting, with the maids staying out of the way for the most part. Cocytus is watching to make sure they are stopped when necessary, and so is Victim." "I see." Ainz remembered the day Zessie came into the tomb. He had defeated her years ago when the slain theocracy was formed, and from that defeated the strongest in this world. Upon doing so, the lowly was obsessed with becoming his wife and having his child, but the other girls wanted it first, so they fought her for this right. Compared to them, it was an even fight for all sides, and he was seeing the wars getting worse over time. Before Ainz could head down to the lower floors and fix the problem, he felt something in the room that was otherworldly. "Demiurge, to my side now." The demon didn't know what was bothering his master, but he quickly appeared next to him. "Be ready, we are about to have some guests from outside this world." "What? But how, my lord? The tomb is protected?" "By all other means, yes, but not by God." Out of thin air came a skeleton-like being that had a dagger in its mouth floating in the air. Next to it was a woman in a white robe that was covered in a magical light, and next to her was a floating old man with ripple eyes and a black staff. "Who are you? You should know us, Ainz, after all you were from our world at one time." Demiurge could sense it. Compared to the tomb, these three were on another level, but compared to Ainz they were still weaker. This meant that the supreme beings really were stronger than the gods of the worlds. "I do not know what you are speaking of, but I think I know who you two are, except for the old man, Kami, and Shinigami." The two gods smiled, and the old man smiled. "My child, my name is Hagoromo, or in your former life the Sage of Six Paths, but you know that story, right, Naruto?" Ainz flared his full aura, forcing the gods to back up and bringing the entire tomb to his side with all of them ready to fight. "Who are you?" asked a woman with black hair and horns in her head. Her golden eyes were glaring at the beings that dared to stand before her beloved Lord Ainz. "How dare you address our master in such a way?" A small girl with large breasts and wearing a dark red dress and umbrella had her eyes glowing against the three beings before them. A blue ice beetle man was staring them down and was ready to fight if they made a single move against him. Two dark elf twins were readying their weapons for fighting, and next to them were the maids with their weapons. A small pink, white, and black hair lolican with a two-headed scythe was standing there with a psychotic look in her eyes that were introverted from each other. Even the butler, an old-looking man missing one of his eyes, was glaring down at the women in front of them. "We apologize. How do you know my old name?" "No one, not even my brethren, knew that name. I forgot that name for a reason, and now you are here to drag it back out again. How dare you? Give me one reason not to destroy all three of you." The gods knew it, this was a bad sign, and he was not happy. More importantly, he didn't want to remember his past as one Naruto Uzumaki. "Lord Ainz, who is Naruto?" Turning to Albedo, he sighed. It was time for them to know the truth of his birth. "That was my human name when I was first born. I was a human that had the power over what is called chakra. It is a mixture of spiritual and physical energy that is able to do things similar to magic. However, I was the container to a powerful demon at the time." "Really? You were human, my lord?" Gamma and the others were starting to put things together. Lord Ainz was always softer to children, humans, and those that earned his favor. They never knew why, but it was a sign that there was a part of his past he was still attached to and didn't happen to someone else. They realized that when they spoke illy of humans it was insulting their lord, and they would have to repent for that in the future. "Yes, I was, and with the demon in my stomach I was hated and treated like garbage. Sadly, my parents died to protect a village and seal the monster away into me to save all of them. They spat on their memory, and the only people that really cared about me were the former leader of the village and a woman I met many years ago. She was a cursed child, as well, always treated like garbage at all times of the day. From those times I was beaten, starved, and overall neglected for everything. I managed to make friends and allies over time, but this led to me finally having the mission that would end my life. I was tasked with bringing back a traitor that ran out of our village to the person that killed the man that was my grandfather in the village. I managed to get to him and defeat him in battle with some major injuries, but before I knew it my former teacher saw me and kicked me into a deep ravine that left me to die from the impact and injuries I suffered from. Shortly afterwards I saw the demon disappear inside of me, and soon I was reborn. This was where I was able to meet the ones that became my family and gave me the rank as the supreme being and ruler of the tomb of Nazarick. Yes, Naruto, and we are deeply sorry for letting this happen to you. We never saw that everyone in the village would do something like this to you. Yes, who would have guessed everyone was on your death in that mission other than Am and Anko?" Turning to Kami, she explained, "When you died, and it was confirmed Am found out her father was using the stand to weaken you and kill you in the end. She hated her father for doing this and eventually left in the middle of the day and went to Spring, where she is known to be a famous cook there, working extensively and expanding her franchise. Koyuki has protected her from Konoha and has even threatened to bring the other nations into a war with them if they continued to harass them after losing their alliances. Anko, on the other hand, left her headband behind and was gone. No one knows where she is and where she ran off to. We know for a fact she is hiding out in Spring and is working for Koyuki as her counterintelligence agent and the person in charge of torturing the spies that are there as well." "Interesting, but what does this have to do with me?" Hagoromo came forward. "Naruto, you were meant to save this world and free them from the chains of darkness that binds it. But sadly this death was the catalyst for me to see everything I did was wrong. It is time for the age of shinobi to end and the rise of a new era to begin." "I see, but I'm not returning to that world. I have nothing there worth fighting for and refuse to be some kind of savior to them. Not even if we promise you something in trade?" Shinigami was the one offering this time, and Ainz narrowed his eyes on him. "What are you offering?" The others were about to voice their disapproval, but they saw Ainz was serious about the offers, so they stayed quiet instead. "We are offering you freedom to do as you choose with the world, freedom to kill whoever you please, and we can finally give you the one thing you always wanted, a body to have children with." "How you mean Lord Ainz couldn't have children now?" The women were horrified when Demiurge confirmed this, and they were crying tears of never knowing what sex would be like with their leader. A human body is nice, but my question is what else would the body come with? Hagoromo held up a set of eyes, and they looked like his own, but they had the Sharingan tomatoes in them, and they were spinning slowly. These are known as the Rinasharingan. They are the most powerful eyes in the world, and only I have them. My mother had one in her forehead, but these are the only complete sets in existence. If you do this for us, not only will your tomb come with you, freedom to do as you please, and a human body, but I will give you these eyes to use all the forms of chakra possible. Ainz thought it over, and after finally wanting to see some of his old allies and friends again he said, "Fine, but we also want some immunity from chakra." Kami nodded and waved her hand, and they all glowed. You are all now immune to illusions and mind control and have the ability to ignore jutsus up to about S-class, which is about 6th tier magic in your terms. Fine. Ainz turned to his followers. My guardians, we now have a new land to explore and conquer. I expect you all to help me in succeeding in taking this world as my own. Albedo smiled and all bowed to him. We swore our loyalty to you, our lord. We are to follow you everywhere you go. We promise that we will be at your side in this time of a new dawn. The rest gave a similar response, and now we're ready for war. Turning to the mains said, let's get this over with. The two gods nodded their heads and said, we are really sorry for everything about Naruto, we hope for the best in the future. With a bright light they were gone from this old world and left it in the hands of the humans that were left. Land of Yuzu. Ainz arriving in his old world saw that they were in the land of Whirlpool or Land Yuzu. This is the land of his former ancestors, and he was excited to finally get his ancestors' old country back into working order. After seeing the landscape of the whole place, the guardians already started making sure they were well protected and had means to counter anyone that would come their way. But one of the Pleiades noticed Ainz had changed. Lord, Ainz, your body. Everyone turned to see Ainz, the skeleton being replaced with a human body, but it was darker than they thought it would be. His skin was the same tone when he was originally human, but his eyes were deep red with 2 black rings in them. He stood a foot taller than everyone in the room and had dark gray hair that was spiked. His fingers were like claws, with him even wearing a dark black and gray robe that hid most of his body. How, what do you know? Better than my original human body. No, Naruto sensed around and felt his chakra was back. But he could not access his magic at all, making him scratch his head. So it would seem I can only use chakra in this form, while in my original form I can use magic to my heart's content. How interesting. Naruto turned to the group. What do you all think about my new form? Everyone bowed and smiled at their ruler. Shaltier spoke with a blush on her face. Beauty incarnate, master, you radiate power that is out of this world even in this form. You might look human, but in truth you are more than that, and we shall always remember that fact. Coitus was next. Your form speaks of a great warrior and power. Your instinct in this form is second to none, and you are truly worth praise. Aura and her brother both shared the same opinion, but Aura spoke for both of them. Even in this state we know you are a true supreme being, and that is all that matters to me and my brother. Zessie smiled. It doesn't matter to me, my lord, you are the truest form of power, and even in that state I would be pleased with any child we have. Albedo snarled at her. Yes, minus her having your child, your form does not deceive me, and I know that you take this form to please all of us, and that is more than anything I could dream for. The rest of the room was sharing the same opinion, and soon Naruto was pleased, showing them his new eyes when they shifted to having rings with tomatoes in them. This power, with it there is no one in the elemental nations that can stop me. Naruto laughed for a bit before coughing into his hand, and he looked at his followers. Now we get down to business. Everyone that is not on assignment is to work around the clock to prepare our defenses and prevent intruders from reaching the inner sanctum of the tomb. For assignments I want Shaltier and Beta to head out to Wave and help them with their problem. From what Kami gave me in my memories, after cutting off their trade with them, they are invading the country to try and pick up the economy. They killed a man named Tazuna and are going to kill his family. Both of you are to head there and slaughter anyone that is a shinobi Konoha and save the people of Wave. Doing so makes sure that if there is anyone of great value or power, to bring them into the fold as one of your brides. Is that clear? Shaltier smiled. Of course I shall head out now, my lord. Come, Beta. The dark-skinned maid smiled. Yes, ma'am. Let's have some fun. Both were out the door, and Naruto turned to the rest of the room. The rest of you stay here and plan defenses like I asked before. Albedo, you are with me. We are going to find my dear friend Gaara and show him a new power is in play in this world. Of course, Lord Ainz. Ainz turned to her. While we are out in the world you shall only refer to me as Menma, is that clear? She nodded her head, and without a second to wait she turned into her dark armor form and had her war axe in hand. Let's move. Naruto opened a kamui hole and sucked them both into it. Appearing in the desert lands, they quickly headed to the village of Suna, where they saw there was smoke coming from many of the buildings. Halt. Turning his head he saw two gate guards, one he recognized as Baki. State your name and business at this time. Menma smiled. I'm sorry to come at a bad time, but I was here to find a man named Gaara. A friend of mine sent me a message to him. May I ask what happened? Yes, well, Gaara has been kidnapped, so the village is in a panic at the loss of our Kazukiage. I see, then he must be trusted to be a leader at his age. Do you know who took him? Yes, we know it is the Akatsuki, but we don't have the means to go after them at this moment. Yes, that is why the so-called elites like us to help their worthless asses. Turning his head, Naruto saw a group of people he didn't want to see ever again until he was murdering them. Standing there was the arrogant Sasuke Uchiha, who was radiating the power of a Chunin, but nothing that was special. He would put him on par with Clementine, and that was being nice. She would slaughter this fool with ease, and that was something to consider as a compliment to the girl. While she was she was at least superior to this fool and his team. Without a chance, they'd be slaughtered and treated like pointless torture dolls or zombies in the end. Yes, Sasuke is here to show them what a real shinobi is, so get lost. Behind him was a pink-haired girl known as Sakura, and Ainz could only sigh. This was sad. Her power was barely that of a Chunin at this point, and she was supposedly trained by Tsunade at one time. Meaning she was to be her student, but she was only a Chunin, meaning she was slacking in her training as a whole. From there, he saw Kakashi, who was ignoring the proceedings and was reading his book while eyeing Albedo. He hated this man more than anyone, considering he is the reason that he died in the first place. From what he gathered of the memories of Kami, he was hailed as a hero, but after telling Sasuke he killed his best friend, it failed to unlock the next stage of his eyes, so he was cheated out of that. He then started training him to his heart's content, and Jiraiya even pitched in, but the minute the Rasengan was taught, Naruto knew that this fool was being primed for Hokage. He would kill him and everyone else before he would let them have the notes of his parents or his father's moves. But from Kami he was informed that they were in the hands of the Toads, and they refused to hand them over, with the threat of crushing Konoha as a whole if they tried to bully them. The slugs supported them and had cut Tsunade off in anger of what she did to her godson and the child of Kushina, who was also another summoner of theirs, if only able to summon minor members of the clan. Finally, there was a pale-skinned boy who was smiling fake at him. Naruto knew that he was a root ninja for Danzo, and he was going to eliminate him soon if the chance arose. Albedo was angry at how this girl was talking to her master and was about to flare her power, but Naruto shook his head at her. Whatever, I have no time to waste with trash that is surrounding me at this point. Baki-san, do you have anything of Gaara that might be able to help me track him? The man nodded his head and brought him his hat. Naruto examines it and uses his newfound chakra senses and smiles. I see they have him in a cave a little bit away from here. Rest assured I shall bring your leader back. Oh, and take this. Naruto handed him a red potion that was made from his blood. Give this to Kankuro, and it should heal him from his poisoning. I heard rumors on the way here that he ran into someone that was a dangerous poison user, so I thought I might as well give you this. Baki was questioning the vial, but figured it wouldn't hurt to try it and then bring the Konoha shinobi in case they are needed. We will be off. Come, Albedo, let's get moving. Within a split second both were gone in a blur, kicking up sand as they were moving, and this shocked everyone, wondering how they gained such speed. Sasuke was jealous and would demand answers of how to gain the same speed himself. Sakura was thinking Sasuke could do the same thing. Kakashi was concerned that there was someone faster than Guy and was going to report this Konoha, and Sai was going to report this to Danzo and tell him his find about the two unknowns. Cave. Naruto saw the cave and saw the stone that was sealing the entrance to the room they were doing the sealing. Interesting, a high-quality seal no doubt, but nothing I can't deal with. With a single punch he destroyed the entire boulder and entered the dust-filled room. In it, Naruto saw a blonde-haired man with a metal-like eye and his hair covering that eye, sitting next to a red-haired man that was giving off the feeling of someone that was not even alive anymore. Interestingly, this is where Gaara was taken. The blonde glared. Who the hell are you? Naruto smiled. Greetings, foolish mortals. My name is Menma, but that is neither here nor there. I shall give you this one time to surrender and hand over my friend there. Otherwise I can promise that you will all die by my hands. This is me being generous. He was hit with an explosive clay spider. Ha! Take that, fool HN. That is what you get for talking down to superiors. Sasori smiled at the childish display until he saw the smoke disappear. They and the holograms were shocked to see the intruder still standing without a single scratch on his body and only having some minor disturbances to his clothes. Well, that is your answer? Albedo takes the clay user. I'll deal with the puppet user. Yes, Lord Menma. The dark-armored woman quickly twirled her axe around and closed the distance on her and the blonde bomber. What the fuck? He was cut in half, but his body dissolved into clay, causing it to explode. He appeared on the far side of the cave. Ha! Bitch fell for the basics. Not so damn great, are you, armored bitch? He felt a kick to the back of his head, sending him back to the ground. Turning up, he saw that the armored woman was standing there without a scratch on her armor. How? She had no time to move, so how did she avoid the explosion? Albedo quickly closed the distance again and swung her axe to cut him in half again, but he quickly moved out of the way. From there he started throwing out multiple explosive attacks. Each tried to reach her and kill her, but she was just weaving away from the explosions and sending them back at him, forcing him to keep moving. You stand no chance, human. You trying to fight me is a waste of time and something you should consider stopping. No. I won't lose to some whore in armor. The eye slits glowed gold, scaring the piss out of the rest of the room, and this led to the ring-eyed projection to say, we failed for now, but we will get the other tailed beast and the one tail soon. Deidara didn't know how, but he was not going to let the leader see him failing at this point. So without hesitation he summoned a clay dragon in the cave and had it attack her, but the minute it got close to her, she decided to stop toying with him. Flaring out her aura of magic, she forced a dragon to dissolve harmlessly and thus allowing her to move in for the kill again. But this time he was out of chakra, wasting it on the attacks prior to this. So she cut his head off. How, what, you know? Death really is a piece of art like a bang, it's only for a second. He smiled before his skull was crushed underneath Albedo's boot. Worthless bug, should have known going against me was futile and died like the bug he was. Turning her head, she saw her master was not struggling as much as she did with her opponent. She was used to magic and armor and melee users that were straightforward fighters, not this. This would take some time to get used to in her mind. Naruto, on the other hand, was dealing with Sasori to the point that he revealed himself as a human puppet himself. Naruto could care less about this and quickly cut down the rest of his puppets with ease before piercing his heart. It would seem that you are stronger than I thought. Allow me to tell you this much, Orochimaru's spy is coming to meet me in a few days. Beware, because he might not be as loyal as I once believed. The man collapsed to the ground and Naruto snorted, I have no interest in snakes. He will be dealt with, but only after I'm done with everything else to prepare for my battle with him. Naruto turned to Albedo, seeing the dead bomber. Bring the puppet user's body and the bodies of his puppets back to the tomb. We might find some use of them. Of course, I shall take care of this right now. Ainz smiled, I appreciate, Albedo. The woman went into a frantic mode. Thank you, my lord. Your praise is valued for someone like me. Please let me know if you want to reward me later with your new body. Naruto sweat dropped at her, going off in her own world. Yeah, once again she is off in her own world. Naruto, seeing her dreaming of all they were going to do in the future, shifted his attention to Gaara, but he noticed his seal had weakened, so he turned into his skeletal form. He cast a diagnosis on him and saw that the seal was weakened and neither he or the Biju were going to survive if something wasn't done. Albedo stands back. Pulling herself out of her dreams, she saw him in his skeletal form and he was casting some kind of ritual on the red hair body, and without warning the entire cave filled with a bright light. Seal fusion. Once the light and magic disappeared, she saw that the red-haired teen had a tail now and even had small ears on his head. Ainz sighed. That was a spell that I found from one of the ancient texts in the tomb years ago that allows a person to fuse two different elements if the seal is weak enough and the bond is strong. Turning to Albedo, he continued, in his current state he is the one-tailed demon and on par with most of the Biju now. But he will be out for a couple of hours. I shall stay here until he has recovered, but until then head back to the tomb, would you? We need to drop the bodies off before people come looking for them. As you command, my lord. With Albedo leaving through a gate, he was sitting there waiting for his friend to wake up. Wave. The once prosperous trading nation was now under siege. The Hidden Leaf village launched a full war assault on the village, and not only did they take the place over there, renamed the bridge of their great savior, and even killed their bridge builder Tazuna, and were planning on killing his family. From there they had flags of the Senju, Konoha, and Uchiha flying over the side of the bridge. The two eternal gate guards were sitting there bored out of their minds. Well, the invasion went well. Kotsu sighed, yeah, but at least we get to change this village for the better, and having the name of the bridge turned into the Great Konoha Bridge has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? His friend nodded his head. They never liked Naruto, so why should they leave something on earth with his name on it? But they both saw someone approaching the gate that was built to keep the village sealed off at the bridge. It was a small girl with large breasts wearing a red dress with a red hat on her head with bright red eyes with slits. Next to her was a tan-skinned girl with golden eyes and wearing a very sexy maid outfit. But the girl in the red dress was carrying an umbrella in her hands with a small smile on her face. Halt! Kotsu had orders to prevent anyone from entering the village, so these two would be turned away or they would be killed. But that made him wonder where the guards on the other side of the bridge were, or if they did something to them. Shaltier, seeing the gate guardians, could see there was nothing special about them and found them disgusting for the most part. Beta, deal with them please, I would rather not waste my time. Yes, Lady Shaltier. Without warning, both men were standing in front of the woman in the maid outfit before finding her swinging a large scepter-like weapon in her hands and cutting their heads off with a single swing. They realized they died only when their heads hit the ground. Oh, they died too quickly. I thought Lord Naruto said these beings were stronger than this. There are some in the village that I can sense that are stronger than these two. Beta kills the ones in the crowd and those that dare to come near me. My brides will deal with the rest of either killing or capturing the ones that resist us or try to run. While I deal with the leaders of the group. Yes, Lady Shaltier. She gave a bright smile while two pale dark-eyed women appeared next to Shaltier with large breasts. Inside the village, the town was gathered in a huddle to watch as the head of the shinobi attacking their village were going to kill more of their people. Yash, now that we have freed this village from the demon's taint, we can now teach them the new youthful ways. Easily, these people would never dare utter that monster's name again in our presence if they know what is good for them. Troublesome, this was easy thanks to us sneaking across the bridge and killing the samurai here. But I fear what the repercussions will be, considering they were workers from the land of iron, and Mifune is not one to be trifled with. Nothing to worry about, Nara, it was their fate to fall today, and the rest of the world will see they will fall to us as well. Out of the group came a man with a scar over his nose standing next to a purple-haired Anbu with a cat mask on her face, and they both had Tsunami and Inari on their knees. Inari was beaten and swollen, but he was glaring at them. Anything you want to say to a prisoner before your death? Inari looked him in the face and spit in it. Yeah, I will see you in hell, traitorous cunt. Haruka snarled. Cats do it. Tsunami screamed. No please. Before her sword could touch, she found it stopped by someone standing next to the child. Humans are such simple creatures. You think that, because you invade a trading nation, that you are stronger? Ha! I find it hilarious that you pick on the weak to make some form of strength of your own. Identify yourself and why you're interfering in the affairs of Konoha. Shaltier turned to Haruka and learned from Naruto and some of the information that this man was once a brother figure to her lord, but he betrayed that trust when he wanted to kill him. So she was given strict orders to torture this fool and then kill him, knowing that Lord Ainz got the last laugh in the end. Well, fool, my name is Shaltier, a servant of Lord Ainz, the one true ruler of this world. He is a supreme being born out of this world and feared by the gods. You see, I was sent here by his orders to deal with the trash in this country. I was hoping you would be stronger, but it would seem I had unrealistic hopes. Two women appeared at her side and quickly started moving to the cat wearing Anbu and her squad. They cut down Monkey and Boar before they could move, and when Snake came behind them, they quickly slammed their hand into his chest, killing him. Soon the shinobi in the crowd heard a scream, turning to see a maid with a scepter weapon cutting down their men. Well, it looks like I'll have some fun. She gained a sadistic look in her eyes and quickly charged. Don't disappoint me. Shikamaru, one of the leading officers in this mission, couldn't believe it. In seconds their forces were getting slaughtered by 4 people. Obviously the red-dressed one was the leader and the others were followers of some sort. They needed to deal with the situation, but they were not sure how. That was when the red-dressed girl stopped Haruka from stabbing her with a kunai with the lengthening of her nail on her pinky finger and deflecting the blade. She yawned into her opposite hand and turned to the man. Is that really all you have? How disappointing, I thought you shinobi were better than this. I guess the reports were wrong then. Humans are bugs after all. She smiled cruelly, and after knocking the kunai away again she quickly ripped his arm off. Blood splattered everywhere, and this led to her punching him in the gut, sending him to the ground. He was spitting up blood and bleeding from his wound as well. She smiled. How enjoyable. Now you know your place, bug. Before you die I want you to hear this. She leaned down and whispered into his ear, where only he could hear, Naruto-sama always gets even a fool. No, you died a traitor. Without a chance for him to respond, she stomped on his head, causing it to explode in a puddle of gore. Iruka. Kat tried to go and save him or try to get revenge against the girl, but the two women facing her were stronger than her. They quickly disarmed her and forced her down to her knees to watch the carnage of the village. Shaltier, finishing with the foolish former schoolteacher, turned her head to the rest of the shinobi standing, Team 9 and Shikamaru. This was considered a group of friends at one time, and she knew that her master wanted to kill them personally, but he didn't say they couldn't die here in wave. So going on this instinct, she approached him with a smile on her face. So who is going to try me next? Lee, not waiting, he charged. You will pay for killing my ally. Leaf Hurricane. She blocked the kick with ease before grabbing his ankle and throwing him back to his friends. He landed on his hands and feet, growling at her. She was strong, almost as strong as Guy, but he was sure he was better. Tenten quickly started her assault by throwing kunai and shurikens at her, but she was deflecting with her pinky finger and a bored expression appeared on her face. Is this really all you got? Throwing weapons is weak, no wonder you are a joke among weapon users. This enraged Tenten, but Niji was in position and Shikamaru was already ready. Yeah, but it was a good distraction. Cage Jutsu is successful. Now Niji. The boy charged at her and hit her in the throat and the forehead and heart. Now Fall knows it was destiny that favored me today. But she didn't fall, but she yawned. So that is it? Holding me in place while you charge in to strike me in the chest. Shaltier started walking to Niji, while Shikamaru was shocked she was not even trapped in place to begin with. Niji quickly tried to react by throwing more strikes at her body, but she was deflecting them with ease. From there, she managed to get inside his range and slam her fist into his stomach, forcing him off the ground. But Tenten reacted and threw another kunai that exploded, covering the area in bright light. During this moment, Lee took his friend and brought him to his side. Shaltier yawned again. Come on, please tell me you have more than that. Honestly, I'm not even using my real power yet, and this is boring me to sleep. You know what? I'm going to deal with you now and be done. She was walking up to them until she saw some kunai and shuriken hit near her feet. Looking up, she saw that several chunin and jounin had appeared at this moment. Team leader Shikamaru Nara runs, takes your allies, and runs back to Konoha. Are you insane? You all will die. Yes, but Konoha must know about this future threat, and that is enough for our sacrifice to mean something. Shaltier was bored to tears at this point and finally at her breaking point. You know what, fuck this. I'm done messing around. With that, a dark red aura formed around her body and she gained a dark evil presence that put the fear of God in the rest of the shinobi there. Within seconds, Shikamaru made the call. Let's go, we need to get back. They leapt over the buildings while the remaining jounin and chunin tried valiantly to kill the monsters attacking their people who were trying to save this disillusioned country. Sadly, this was all for naught as they were slaughtered with ease and Shaltier was growling at the remains. Not even worth the fucking effort. Beta, who is left? The werewolf smiled. Well, the villagers are safe, but we have this one that is left. She is the strongest of the group, and it seems that she holds no hatred. Turning her head, she examined the purple hair woman and saw that there was no hate for her master. I see what your name is? I'll never tell you. Shaltier smiled. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you did or not, this was going to happen either way. Without warning, she bit her neck and soon drained the blood from her body while pouring her power into her body. Within seconds, the woman lost her skin color and now was a purple hair, red-eye, vampire bride. Welcome to the family. She turned her head and shouted, people of the wave know this. You are free from the horror that is Konoha and know the world will know about this treachery. From this point on, you serve under the rule of Lord Ainz Ooal. The people were confused, but they figured they were better than the Konoha shinobi. All hail Lord Ainz. The people started chanting this, and Shaltier smiled. This new world has such delectable humans to feast on. I hope my lord lets me kill some more soon. Soon this world, just like all other worlds, will belong to my beloved master. Within a few hours the word spread of the massacre of Wave, and the flag of Ainz Ooal was hanging high in the sky, showing a new superpower was in play. Naruto watched as Gaara had sat up and was looking at him with confusion in his eyes. Who are you? Well, Gaara, I don't blame you for not recognizing me. After all, it hasn't been since the time of the rescue mission in retrieving Sasuke Uchiha that we saw each other. What are you talking about? How do you know about that mission? Naruto used his magic and summoned his old headband and showed it to him, causing Gaara's senses to go haywire. Naruto. Yeah, it's me. Good to see you in good health, brother. Gaara stood off the ground and hugged him. It's good to see you are alive again, Naruto. But how is this possible? Last we heard Kakashi say you were killed by Sasuke and thrown into the river to not be seen again. Naruto narrowed his eyes. That fool. He killed me before I was reborn in a new land. He had kicked me into a hole that sent my body plummeting to the bottom, and I was dead from the impact. However, I was reborn as a man named Ainz and afterwards took up his mantle of power. I see. What did you look like then? Naruto turned into his skeletal state. What do you think? Pretty scary to look at, if I'm being honest. I know, that is why Kami and the others gave me a human body, and for other reasons. Naruto turned back to his human state and was blushing slightly from having revealed the real reason why he was given a human form again. For the most part, he wanted to know what it was like to have sex. What? The guy was about 1,000 years old at this point. He essentially is the world's oldest virgin, and that is something he wanted to correct now that he has that golden opportunity. I see. Well, Naruto, what happened here though? Naruto sighed. Me and a friend killed 2 members of the Akatsuki. Sasori and Deidara, I believe their names were. Seeing you are nearly dying from what happened, I fused Shukaku and you together form your new improved body. Gaara raised an eyebrow but then saw the tail swishing behind him and sighed. Can I put these away though? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Just think it might work. Gaara focused on his normal appearance and his tail and ears disappeared. Cool, well now let's get you back to Suna. He helped him up to his feet and walked out of the cave where they saw Team 7 and an old woman standing there with Sasuke sneering at him, Sakura glaring because Sasuke was, Sai smiling, and Kakashi giving him a blank look. The woman was happy to see Gaara. Kazuki-sama, you are safe. Gaara nodded his head. Yes, thanks to my friend here. He and his ally assisted me with getting through this ordeal. Turning his head to Team 7, he hid his anger from them and then turned back to Chiyo. Please collect the body of Sasori inside of the cave and bring it back to Suna to be examined. Konoha Shinobi, don't mess with the body or be charged by our daimyo for the theft of the secrets of Suna. Sasuke growled at him, but Naruto snapped his fingers and they were gone in a bright light. That bastard who thought he was talking to us like that. That asshole should be grateful that we are here to try and save his shithole of a country. Sakura was shouting louder and louder, but Chiyo snorted. I'll remember this when we are doing your payment, bitch. She floated into the cave before claiming the bodies of her grandson and the parents of the child and other bodies he had collected over the years, but to her surprise he was not there. Maybe the mysterious stranger destroyed them? It made better sense that it was gone forever rather than someone using it for their own purposes in the future. So she said a small prayer for her grandson and went back to the village. Back in Suna, when everyone had arrived, Gaara was sitting behind his desk with the money that was required to pay for the mission. Here is your payment. Actually, since we were assisting Kankuro with his health issue, that is another payment. Kakashi pat himself on the back trying to get more money for the village, but Ainz, he is called this when in the presence of Konoha Shinobi, retorted. I'm the one that healed him with the special medication that I gave him a while back. Kakashi growled. This has nothing to do with you, Ainz. Gaara narrowed his eyes and growled back. No, but I know from Baki that he is telling the truth, so I will not be paying you another cent. You are free to leave, so please do. Kakashi snorted at him, and his team walked out the door while Sasuke glared at him. Where is that iron bitch that was with you earlier? Did she die? He was smirking arrogantly. Ainz only snorted. Please, weaklings like them and Itachi are nothing of a bother. She killed an S-class while you were too slow to show up on time. Sasuke turned to attack him, but Kakashi stopped him. You should watch yourself, Ainz. Lesser people have insulted the Uchiha and have died horribly for it. Ainz smirked. Please, I'm far from afraid of your clan or one person. That does not make a clan if I'm right. So go puff your chest somewhere else, after all I'm sure Kumo and Iwa combined are more trouble for you dumbuses. Kakashi growled and took a step forward before Ainz was in front of him and had his hand at his face. Make one more move and I remove your head on the spot. Gaara finally flared his aura in the room. Kakashi left this room and left my village now. Kakashi bit his tongue and left with his team in tow with his head in the air. Gaara sighed, he sat down in his seat and looked at Ainz. Now then Naruto, what are you here to discuss? Naruto smiled, I'm here to warn you that the time of the shinobi era is ending and in its place is the new kingdom. The gods have deemed it necessary and I'm their will on this world. Are you willing to give up your kingdom to protect them from me? You don't need to ask Naruto, but honestly I can't just leave my alliance, no matter how much I want to leave it. We need protection from the other nations. So unless you can find another nation to assist us, we are at their mercy. Naruto thought about it. You let me worry about finding you new allies, and I promise you are going to get it before the month is out. Naruto casted a small portal and teleported back to the tomb, while Gaara sighed seeing the paperwork. Now if you could teach me how to defeat paperwork then I would follow you into the depths of hell and back. Tomb of Nazarick. Naruto was sitting in his office in his skeletal form. He had looked over some documents telling him what was happening in the elemental nations at this time. Especially since his departure apparently had a huge effect in this world and led to a lot of deep problems boiling up over time. For one thing, Kumo and Iwa were on edge of war with Konoha due to their constant taunting and the fact that Sasuke had upsetted them by attacking members of their nation with the notion that I'm an Uchiha and they got in the way, and this was enough for Konoha. Sadly, neither nation took kindly to this and warned them that war was on the horizon if this continued, but Konoha brushed them off. One of the major issues that came up was their lost alliances. Naruto could use his return as Ainz as a means to bring them to his side, but he was not sure what he could promise them. As much as he loathed to admit it, he needed a shinobi nation to assist him with his conquests. But whom? None of the minor nations had the manpower to be a serious superpower even with the assistance of the tomb, and most of the other nations are either worse than them or just idiots. Plus with Gaara stuck supporting Konoha he had to find someone even more to help him get protection of his own against the hidden leaf. A knock at the door. Come in. Naruto continued looking over the documents when Albedo walked into the room. Greetings Lord Ainz. While the two now knew the identity of their master they insisted on calling him Lord Ainz. More in the sense their master and true ruler was not Naruto, but Ainz. Naruto accepted this, but warned them to not mention his former name outside the tomb, if that was the case to avoid people coming their way. Even though he was confident they could wipe people out with ease, he still wanted to have the advantage no matter what. So he needed to form an alliance with another nation to consider moving their forces while disguising his own. Albedo, what do you have for me? She dropped the documents on his desk. Some field reports from the twins and Sivas, my lord. Apparently there are sightings of the woman you are looking for. I believe you said her name was Anko, correct? Yes, Spring is the country she fled to many years ago, yes? She smiled, yes my lord. Apparently, as the daimyo's personal ninja she has major protection, and no one would dare speak her name. More since they found out that a man named Danzo had some of his men placed to take her out if she dared to defy him, and Konoha, as a whole. Luckily with the finding of the spies they have more than enough reason to suspect the other nations are the same way, which is why Iron Country has cut off all trades with the nations of Konoha and allies. More in the sense, they found samurai working for Danzo and Konoha and found this a slight against their independence. Good to know. I shall collect her as soon as the coast is clear for her to come to me. Indeed my lord. Also it would seem that the other nations are having all kinds of problems. First, the Mist is in a case of crisis with the war ending and their two demon vessels disappearing recently. We were fortunate that the twins managed to catch the 6-tail container, but we are unsure where the 3-tail container is at this time. Most likely he is dead and his demon extracted. If not, then he is dead and the demon shall return sometime in the near future. Sadly, there is no telling given how we have no real means of getting that information. Tell Cocytus to watch Mist in case they try something or the demon shows up. Then I want him to capture the creature and bring it here. After all, I will not allow the Biju to be sealed again. He rubbed his own stomach and sighed. He honestly had no idea where the Kyuubi went, and neither did the gods. They said his death was unprecedented and that it could be that Kyuubi really did die and tried to save him in his final moments of life. Naruto was unsure himself, but he wanted to believe the fox had some good in his heart from the memories he got from Hagoromo and some of the dreams he was having about it. Yes, my lord, and we have managed to separate the six tails from the host, and he is resting in his own room peacefully. The beast is living in the caverns below enjoying the peace and quiet that we have provided it. Excellent. While they might not be as powerful as myself, they are a useful ally to have. More in the sense thanks to the studies that Yuzu has provided me, I found a means to counter the Mokuton, Sharingan, and the Death Reaper seal. This will allow them to be free again and, as nature intended them to be, allowed to protect the world from all dangers coming their way. As expected, my lord, your power of perceiving the world and things in it are unmatched. Yes, but have we found any major nations that we could have as an ally in our quest for dominance of the elemental nations? Actually, Demiurge told me that there might be one, Kumo. Handing him the report, she continued her analysis. From what he found out, the country is a case of hatred and chaos. The former Cage refused to turn his two demon vessels into pawns for war for the Lightning Daiyamo, so he was replaced by someone else. This man has become the most hated man in the country, and they are on the verge of a civil war in this state. So if I was to move in and take him out, I would have the former Cage in my pocket and might just gain a powerful ally in this case. Yes, my lord. Naruto's skull face eyes glowed, and he turned to Albedo, tells Esu she is going with me. It is time to free a nation and begin our conquest in this world. Albedo bowed to him. Of course, my lord, you will be done. Konoha. What the fuck do you mean you lost Wave? Tsunade, a large-breasted blonde-haired woman, was looking at the remaining survivors of the massacre in Wave. She thought it would be an easy job, go in, take out the samurai, and take out those that would dare question their rule. This would lead to the Land of Iron backing off and them gaining serious trading again. But it would seem someone intervened, and now most of her shinobi forces were dead, and they had heated issues with their daimyo, who was not happy about the word from Mifune, the leader of the samurai, that this happened under his watch. He was outraged, and Tsunade got an earful of this and lost a good amount of their budget, meaning more cutbacks on different things in their country. Yes, we were attacked, and they slaughtered all of us. Shikamaru was not happy in giving the report before a pissed-off woman. Ever since the village killed their demon vessel, it would seem she was getting angrier as the days went on, and they were losing allies everywhere they went. The only reason Suna didn't leave is that they had no one else to rely on, but something told him that would not be the case for long. So you're telling me 4 people showed up, slaughtered Anbu, Jounin, and Chunin alike, and without anyone stopping them? Yes, you didn't see Hokage-sama. They were monsters and were doing things completely out of our league. Not even Kat could match the women there and was quickly taken down. But I think she might be still alive, considering they didn't kill her right off the bat with the rest of us. Then we could retrieve her. Shikamaru sighed. No, we have no idea if they are still there, and with tensions rising from this recent attack, there is no doubt they are prepared for another invasion. Pursuing her might just lead to another war breaking out, and if our previous allies are anything to go by, Suna might just jump in and help end us. Tsunade growled. Fine, but what else are we supposed to do then, if you know it all? Without warning, Kakashi and his team walked in. Well, Suna was not as welcoming as we hoped. We failed to rescue Gaara. What? Is he dead then? We might be able to manipulate someone else in this case, if someone else is in charge then. No, he is alive, but he was rescued by someone else. Who? Kakashi sighed. A teen named Ainz, and another person in armor with a large war axe named Albedo. I see. Well, I wonder if Jiraiya has information on him. Out of the blue, Jiraiya was in the window. Way ahead of you, princess. I started looking around once I heard rumors about this Ainz guy and the attack on Wave. Seemed like it was too much of a coincidence that they all happened around the same time. And I found nothing. This guy doesn't exist for some reason, and no one knows how to find him. He showed up in these locations, and from what I gathered, he just disappeared afterwards. No trace or anything to follow, and the Toads have told me that they've not heard of this man and refused to speak more on the subject. Jiraiya was angry with the Toads. They were siding with Naruto in this case and said it was not right that the boy was killed just because the Kyuubi is sealed in his body. Sadly, this led to a long argument where they refused to help Konoha and told him unless he apologizes to Minato and Kushina, they would continue to refuse to be summoned again. Damn creatures. Ignoring this, Jiraiya-sama, you think this attack and the saving of Gaara might be connected then? He nodded his head. Yeah, and from what my gut is telling me something big is coming our way soon if we don't deal with the situation. Shikamaru and Niji looked at each other. We have no idea about the women that attacked Wave other than the short one with the umbrella was the leader of the group and with ease slaughtered most of our best men and women with nothing more than physical strength and speed. Yeah, and from what I was told she was quite busty as well. A perverted look appeared on his face and Tsunade rubbed her head. Regardless, the clan heads and council are going to want to know what happened on this mission. Jiraiya frowned. They are going to demand that we do something, and we both know you can do a thing considering the Spring Daimyo is now discussing with ours about the recent attack. Plus with the other nations watching us, he doesn't want to start a war unless he can avoid it. True, but they are important in the functioning of the village and need to be kept in the loop at least. She got out of her seat and dismissed everyone but Jiraiya before proceeding to the council chamber, where they saw the civilian council on one side, the clan head and shinobi council on the other, while the elders were next to her. Taking her seat she started, so the attack on Wave failed. The room erupted in yelling immediately. How is this possible? We sent some of our best shinobi there. If we only had sent Lord Sasuke he would have calmed the masses easily. His power would have quelled all who dared oppose him. Tsunade sighed. Regardless of what you may think of civilians, from what we were given in reports it was a group of 4 that did it. One was a silver-haired, red-eyed girl, a woman in a maid's outfit, and 2 pale-skinned women. They came in over the bridge and from there killed everyone that was fighting them with ease. But the biggest thing is that they proved to be immune to most chakra-based abilities. Broke the control of the shadow possession jutsu, was immune to the gentle fist style, and proved that she was dangerous at any range of fighting. She did this without really trying, and the others were weeding out the rest of the warriors other than Shikamaru and Team 9. Hiashi was growling. Someone who could survive their clan's perfect fighting style could not be allowed to live. He'd have a bounty on them and have them killed before they could disgrace his clan further. Danzo on the other hand was planning on sending his route to Wave and finding this woman and bringing her back to be experimented on with the others. This way he would increase his own force's strength and become the sole ruler of Konoha and overthrow the leaders of the land. This way he would become the ruler of the elemental nation with no equal in sight or someone to dare question his way of life. Well, the Daiyamo is angry with us at this point and demanding we do nothing else or we would lose all of our funding in a matter of minutes. Do you idiots know what that means? The other nations will get the go-ahead and wipe us out before the next sunrise. Then we have to do something then. Danzo sat up. We must find another demon vessel and condition them to be our weapon then. The civilian shuffled in fear. Are you sure that is wise, Lord Danzo? I mean, we just got rid of the last one. He was a defective weapon. This one will be trained and conditioned to our will no matter what. I promise you that. I already have word that the 7 Tails is somewhere in the outer part of Taki, so she will be easy to capture. The council converged on this and agreed to the motion with Tsunade sanctioning it but ordering that he take a team of the rookies with them to get better experience in the field. This didn't bother him considering he was going to get a new demon vessel to work with and maybe seeing his people in action will convince the children to follow his way of thinking. Upon gathering the shinobi necessary for this mission she saw that all of the teens were there except for Team 7 who she gave the day off to. The rest of Team 10, Choji and Ino are there with Shikamaru, who was not eager to go back into the field yet. Hinata was there with her teammates Kiba and Shino. Hinata had a cold look in her eyes that showed arrogance from being part of the Hyuga clan, and Kiba was radiating lust for her but also arrogance, while Shino was calm as ever. On top of that, Team 9 was there too with all their members either frustrated or happy to be on another mission to get rid of the memory of the previous one. As you all know, your mission is this: you are to support Danzo and his troops in the capture of the 7-tailed Jinchuriki. Failure is not an option, do you understand me? We need something to deter the potential war that might come our way with the other nations having the Bijuu. Ino moaned, but can't Sasuke-kun just suppress the beasts with his Sharingan like Madara did? Tsunade shook her head. We don't know how Madara did that in the past, and any record of it was lost in the previous wars. For all we know, it could be something only he could pull off in the case of his powers. So, for this instance, we need you to head to Taki, grab the girl, and bring her back to be reprogrammed for the leaf. Now move out. The team bowed their heads and headed to the gate, where they saw 3 teams of 5 route waiting for them. Soon the race was on, but not knowing that there was a small dark-skinned person that was watching the whole thing and frowned. This is going to be troublesome. Better send the message to Lord Ainz to have him deal with this now. She activated the crystal in her hand, and soon the message was sent, while she saw someone coming out of the town, dressed as a civilian man. They shifted around and soon turned into a dark-haired woman with light complexion skin and a ponytail going down her back. "Anything interesting you learned about Nabril?" She sighed. "Yes, Lady Aura, from what I gathered, the shinobi in the Leaf are planning a secret mission where they are going to try and raid the land of Spring and pose the death of the queen there as enemy shinobi before putting someone they could control on the throne." Aura frowned. Ainz would not be happy about that, considering he had some kind of relationship with the queen when he was still human. Apparently he put her on the throne and she owed her country's freedom to him. "I see. Well then, another thing we are going to need to deal with then." She shook her head. "On the contrary, Lord Sivas is heading that way now to make sure nothing happens to her and gain an audience with her to introduce her to Lord Ainz again. This way he can meet the woman working for him." She nodded her head. "That's right, she is considered as one true lover in this world, right? Makes you wonder how she escaped without being captured?" Nabril explained. "I heard rumors she escaped after blindsiding her old team when they attempted to raid Spring and force her into submission. When this happened, her team was executed, while Anko was saved from the same problem. This put her in a position of power and protection, not that the Leaf knows this. They just assume she is hiding there with the protection of the ruler, not knowing she is the top interrogator there and spy controller in the entire nation." "Interesting. Well then, I can't wait to meet her then." Both of them left the forest region and proceeded deeper into the trees to head back to the tomb. Naruto just got word about what the Hidden Leaf was planning, and he was not happy with what was going on. As Naruto, he wanted to prevent this from happening, and at the same time, as Ainz, he knew that he couldn't trust his offense to save her. Meaning if he went personally, this could bring the land of Konoha after them without a means to defend his actions. However, he knew that he could send one of his servants to deal with the matter, but who? Shaltier would draw attention to them due to her presence there, and Cactus is in Mist. The only person he could think to have there at this time was Albedo, Demiurge, the maids, or have Service sent there. Of his options, he knew that Service was out since he needed to head to Spring to help them out with the spy issue. The maids were only working with people of the tomb, and the only one of them that couldn't go was Beta, since she had been in Wave already. Albedo would be a strong choice, but at the same time, might accidentally kill the girl for disrespecting her and people trying to save her. Leaving Demiurge and the other maids to go. Figuring this would be the best option, he snapped his fingers. Albedo sent in Demiurge and CZ told to come immediately. This is of the most importance. She bowed her head and left the office to find both of them. Sitting there in his office, Naruto frowned, mentally wondering if it is true and Kyuubi was gone, wouldn't that mean the rest of the Biju were gone as well? Would make sense. I mean, the idea that one is no longer around would mean that the rest would fade as well. That was the sole design of the Biju by Hagoromo, so that would mean he is out there, but where? Obviously it hasn't been long enough for him to return to this world, but where did he go? Might ask Seiken or the Three Tails if they know later. Coming out of his thoughts, he saw Demiurge and a girl with red hair wearing a camo-made outfit and green targeting eyes walking into the room, bowing to him. "My lord." Lord Ainz. She was Montant more because she was a machine. He knew that her battle capabilities were perfect for this mission, since even impaled she would move forward and kill the person in front of her along with the weapons she possessed. She could kill anyone that got in her way. Demiurge, CZ. As much as I want to waste time discussing the importance of this meeting, it will have to wait. You are to head to Taki and find a girl named Fu who is about to be captured by shinobi from the Hidden Leaf. As a former container, I will not allow this to happen. At the same time, strategically this can be a chance to cripple a huge part of their forces and show the world our power. Do this and make sure only leave a few survivors, some of them. I want to kill myself in the near future. Demiurge smirked. As you wish, my lord, we shall leave immediately. Naruto turned to CZ. Weapon access, full unlock. She recognized the command and bowed to him before they fled the tomb to the land of Taki. Naruto saw Zes come into his office, and before he could say anything he saw Albedo glaring at her and their auras clashing with each other, making him sigh, figuring this was going to be a while. Spring. Sitting in her throne room was a black hair woman with a gold crown on her head. This is Koyuki, also known as the ruler of the land of spring, and in her shadow was a woman wearing a tan trench cloak, fishnet shirt, and brown skirt with purple hair. This was Anko, her personal security, and someone that she trusted thanks to her deep past connection with Naruto. Ever since he died, Koyuki had become cold to everyone that betrayed him and was not against killing people that dared to cross her path, especially those from Konoha. However, this is not the case right now. Before her was an old man with one eye looking up at her with a neutral expression on his face. "Please explain again why you are here?" The man explained, "A group of shinobi have infiltrated your palace and are planning on killing you the minute they find you in this throne room." "How do I know you speak the truth?" He reached into his coat pocket and revealed a small orb that showed a holographic projection. "I know this might not have been part of the series, but screw it, my story. And I think it is a cool tool to have in this case," showing a group of 5 blank-faced men running through the halls and looking around for while killing some of the servants that noticed them. Koyuki was furious. These men thought that they could do something like this and there would be no repercussions then? Turning to the man again, "What are you asking for in trade for this information?" The man bowed again. "Simple, my lady, an audience for my lord to meet you and the woman behind you, as this is all over and they are free to come." Koyuki frowned. While she didn't trust the old man, he did reveal this assassination plot, and that was something worth weighing. "Very well, if you manage to deal with them, we have a deal." The doors swing open, and out of the shadows come the root men. "Remove the threat to Konoha." They charged at Koyuki, but Sivas intercepted them and without any effort, smacked his hand against one of their heads, sending him flying across the room. Next, he kicks the one behind him to the queen, who has Anko, cutting him in half with her kunai. The rest of the men, seeing their comrades killed, quickly acted on this incident and charged Sivas. "All enemies to my master and his allies shall perish." Without warning, he took a stance with his right hand forward in a fist, while his other arm was beneath his left arm's elbow. The rest of the men went through some hand signs and fired different size fireballs at him, but he blasted through them with single punch strikes before leaping into the air and dropping his heel down on one of the men's skulls, causing it to explode. From here, he grabbed another by the mask and crushed his head before pushing him in front of an incoming Tanto blade. There, he pushed the man down with the corpse on top of him before spinning around him and smashing the back heel on his skull, causing a crack to be heard and his head to bleed out on the floor. The final man standing there was terrified. How did this happen? This was an old man with no chakra flowing through his body. He turned to run, but the minute he was bitten by a snake and collapsed to the ground in a thud. The poison acts quickly and turned him into the final corpse. Wondering how they could fail their mission for their lord if their path was the right path to follow in this case. Sivas, turning to her, he bowed. "My lord shall come in a week's time." He walked out of the palace, not even bothering with the death of the men he killed. After all, humans were stupid to fight him then. Why should he care? Their bodies were lying all around him from their foolish challenge. Taki. Fuwa was furious. First, her village kicked her out of the village, then she is facing a group of people from Konoha saying they want her as a weapon, and finally she is cornered in a cliffside with no place to get away. She managed to kill one of the groups, but the remaining members of the group pressed her. She heard what they did to their previous container and thought it was disgusting and wanted nothing to do with it. But thanks to the fact they had at least 10 Anbo with them and some Jounin and Chunin level people in the mix, she was on edge from being forced to use the Seven Tails power to escape. It looked like she either did that or she would become someone's pet, and she would rather die than let that happen. Chomi might not be the easiest person to get along with at times, but she still wanted the poor thing to be free from this madness of being sealed and controlled as a weapon of destruction. "Surrender, monster, you are surrounded by the order of Konoha, you are to come and be our loyal weapon." She growled. "Go fuck yourselves, the world will know what you did, and soon they will burn you assholes to the ground." Hardly a little girl. The lead Anbu charged her, but then there was a loud bang and he collapsed to the ground. There was a hole in the back of his head and blood was pouring out of his head. The group was terrified and the Hyuga looked around to find the source of the shot but couldn't detect any chakra in the area. But there was a mocking clap going on with a man in a suit walking out to greet them with a black mask on his face and black gloves. Next to him was a girl wearing a maid outfit and carrying a large gray-black thing in her hands while leaning it on her shoulders. "Who the hell are you guys?" Kiba was the first to react to the presence of 2 unknown individuals that dared to kill their leading officer. Meaning that it was down to the rest of the root shinobi to lead them. The masked man laughed. How interesting. We were just in the neighborhood and saw that you scum were planning some against this poor girl, and we decided to interfere. The Root growled at him. Should have kept moving. For Lord Danzo and Konoha you are to die for their greatness. He withdrew his sword, and the green girl said, target locked on. Changing weapon status. The weapon glowed slightly before turning into a black long tube weapon. She got in front of the man, and with it aimed at his head she pulled a small lever at the bottom of the weapon. With a loud bang the weapon blew his head clean off, and it covered the nearby Anbu in his brain matter and blood. Too easy. The man in the suit grew long claws. This is your one warning, turn around and return to your village. If not then join your friends on the ground. Kiba growled, fuck you asshole we'll kill you and turn that stupid bitch into our village's weapon. The rest of the Root quickly started moving in at the man, but he sighed, can't say I tried, but then again from weaker beings I would expect nothing less. He quickly swiped his hands at them and walked by them, where seconds later they collapsed into bloody chunks covering the ground in blood. The Root gone there was only the rookie teams left. He knew from his lord's orders he didn't care for most of the people in the group, but the ones that he wanted to kill personally were the Hyuga idiots, the boy with the pineapple hair, and the green spandex wearing kid. Outside of them, he was okay with them killing the others. Remember dear there are certain ones to leave for later. CZ nodded her head. Understood sir. She turned her weapon from a shotgun and turned into a large M60 machine gun and aimed it at them, eliminate. Without warning she started firing at the group with Shikamaru shouting, scatter. They quickly dispersed into different teams while Demiurge just watched as this was going on. He figured the ponytail would point out that CZ was fighting at long range and might not like close range combat. So they would try to close the distance on her, but the truth is that she has means of dealing with them in those positions as well. Her weapon only focuses on keeping us at distance. Lee gets in close and tries to shut down her attacks, and Tenten covers him. Tenten said, Roger Captain. She took out her kunes and started chucking them at CZ, but when they hit her, they bounced off her skin or broke on contact. Lee however, took off his weights and quickly dashed her. Once he was upon her he shouted, Leaf Hurricane. He threw a kick at her head and CZ said, barrier. A green barrier surrounded her, and when he kicked it, he screamed in pain from the burning sensation he was feeling and the fact he only injured his leg from the attack. Seeing his damage she turned her gun on him and blew another small hole through his other leg. CZ was using magical bullets too so they disappeared as soon as they were done penetrating around them leaving nothing for anyone to study. Targeting, weapon change. Her machine gun disappeared and out came a pair of holes in her hand and she quickly dashed at them. Ino was set and fired off her personal jutsu. Mind transfer jutsu. The minute she hit her body collapsed and CZ froze for a second. The group thought Ino did it and now they only had to really deal with the masked man. But as soon as they breathed a sigh of relief CZ turned to the blonde's body and fired a dark green energy turning her body to ash. No. Shikamaru couldn't believe it. Not only did the girl resist Ino's jutsu, but he killed her as well. Meaning she was gone forever. He was going to ask her out on a date sometime in the future, but now that chance was gone. He growled at the girl and said, you're going to pay for killing my teammate. CZ only stared at him for a second before turning to the others seeing the two Hyugas use the moment to close the distance and start striking her chakra points. Hinata and Niji shouted. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. After feeling each strike she felt them hit her in the chest before hitting her in the head. Hinata snorted, none shall survive the wrath of the Hyuga clan. Niji sneered, trash should have never opposed fate. CZ was frozen and they thought she was dead for sure this time. They mourned the fact it cost Ino her life, but it was worth it to stop this monster. Weapon configuration, pistol. They saw that the girl had a small device in her hand and with ease, put 2 rounds into the Hyuga's legs leaving them screaming in pain. What the hell, we hit her at all vital points. She shouldn't be alive. Hinata was furious of all this training for nothing, and she was being treated like a weakling again. Shikamaru was frowning. This was bad. They couldn't figure out how to hurt this red-haired girl. Apparently she was able to summon those weird weapons to deal with them at range, but outside of that she seemed to be immune to most close-quarter attacks. Feeling his time had come he quickly captured her in a shadow bind and shouted, Tenten go for it, throw all the tags you got. She nodded her head and without warning she sent at least 30 tags at CZ causing a massive explosion to rock the entire cliffside. With the smoke up, he released his shadow and waited to see the results of their attacks on the girl. But fearing the worst, he shouted, "Kiba, hit her, even if she is dead, better to continue the assault to be sure." Kiba nodded his head and fed a pill to his dog, and they both were humans now. They quickly spun, creating whirling tornadoes, and charged at the dust cloud, hoping to kill the girl in there for sure with his family's jutsu. After a few minutes of rushing through the cloud, he stopped his attack, and the cloud of smoke cleared, revealing a horrifying sight to the people of Konoha. No way. How is this possible? This must be some kind of nightmare. Standing there without a scratch on her body was CZ. Her clothes had some soot on them, and she was only staring at them with the same blank expressions from before. Shikamaru couldn't believe that those two moves should have killed her, but she looked like she was not even fazed by the attacks. Frowning, he knew that their chances of winning had gone down dramatically to zero. There was nothing they could do to her to win. Before Shikamaru could think of another strategy, he heard a scream and saw that Tenten was sliced up badly by the masked man. How could he have forgotten him? Well, that was disappointing. I thought you Konoha shinobi were supposed to give me and my friend a challenge, but sadly that is not the case. Oh well, might as well put some of you out of your misery at least. Without looking, he impaled Tenten through her skull, making Niji scream. His love was gone, and he was forced to see the monster remove his claws and step on her corpse before wiping his shoes and claws on her. He was enraged and wanted to attack the man, but he couldn't thanks to whatever hit his leg and prevented him from standing. Next, Kiba rushed at him, but before he could reach him, one of the two wind spirals was shot with a barrage of bullets, leading to it crashing on the ground, revealing Akamaru. Akamaru. The man laughed. Too easy. Without warning, he rushed at the boy, who stopped spinning and sliced up his back, sending him to the ground with a thud. He stood on his back and motioned for CZ to do it. Without warning, she summoned another short barrel weapon and without warning fired a large shell projectile at him. His body was caught in a massive explosion, and his body was blown all across the cliff face. Demiurge walked out of the attack with no damage on his person and smiled beneath the mask. He could feel their despair and was enjoying every second of it. While he wanted to hurry this up, he loved watching as the humans realized that they were not going to win and that they were slowly dragging out all their remaining strategies before succumbing to defeat and despair. This would be the ultimate victory for him, and he was relishing the more they tried. None of the attacks affected CZ thanks to her being an automaton to begin with and having the power to avoid being affected by chakra anyway. At this same point, he knew that her powers were unusual, along with her weapons allowing her to take out most of the long-range fighters with ease while they were doing their hand signs. Shikamaru finally had seen enough. They lost enough comrades today, and he was not willing to let more of them down. He turned to Shino. Cover us. We are retreating. The bug boy nodded his head and gathered his swarm to cover his teammates' movement. Lee, Niji, Hinata, and Shikamaru are being taken away by Chaoji after he turned into a giant version of himself and ran across the landscape. From this point, Shino was about to retreat, but he saw a large firestorm form and heard the scream of his hive. This horrified him. The hive was being killed, and he saw that it was the girl that was doing it. In her hands was a weapon that had a large tank on her back and was spewing fire out of the nozzle with a small flicker of a flame in front of it. The attack was devastating, and before he could move himself, he was caught up by the flames, and for the first time in his life he was screaming from the pain and slowly rose to the live. CZ, seeing the bug boy was dead, sent her weapon away before turning to Fu, who was talking to Demiurge and knew that her orders were simple: let the ones that escaped get away. Their mission was a success, and she might get a special treat from the others for succeeding at her job. Demiurge explained why they were here and what they were promising her, and she was skeptical, but after seeing what they did, she knew that her chances of survival were better with them than with the people that were coming after her. So I go with you guys, and you promise me protection. My Biju is freed, and I can live with her, and the rest of you guys? Yes, but you would be part of a new branch of servants we would be having around the tomb, however, so you would be required to work for some of the floor guardians and Lord Ainz. She thought over it and sighed. Okay, but if I'm wearing a maid outfit, make sure it looks like hers, please. He laughed. You fit right in with the rest of the tomb. Without warning, they teleported away from the scene, leaving the corpses behind for the wild animals to devour and for Taki to see and think that their demon did this and fear what she was planning for the future. Kumo outskirts. Ainz, now in his human form, And with Zes at his side, looked over the Warden City and smiled. Time to get started. Zushi smiled. Yes, let's have fun, my master. The first major move is being made. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time, till then sayonara.